To go into further detail here, just to make sure we set all this up, this is specifically the principal cell of the collecting duct and the effect of aldosterone. Once again, we have the blood at the bottom, which means the basolateral membrane. Aldosterone may stimulate that. On the luminal membrane, you'll notice the sodium channel. The urine, you see, would be the lumen. So reabsorption would be which way, please? Top to bottom or bottom to top? I'm just giving you every perspective. Reabsorption would be from top to bottom, correct? Good. Next, there's the intercalated cell. So what kind of substances might you be thinking about here? Hydrogen. You pay attention to hydrogen in this picture. Intercalated. How do you form hydrogen? Now, the reason I love this picture is because, well, I assume that you knew that hydrogen and bicarb always is going to run through that formula. You've seen that over and over again, right? Now, what is also important here, bicarb produced. Okay? So, the difference is the following. If you're not following what I'm saying, that's okay. Listen. In the proximal convoluted, go way back, proximal. In the proximal convoluted, tell me, please, about that bicarb. Was it newly synthesized, or was majority of it reabsorbed? Majority of it was reabsorbed, 80%. Here, if it's bicarb that's required in the distal convoluted, then understand this is newly synthesized bicarb. Now, ultimately, with aldosterone, hydrogen is then going to be pushed out, and bicarb is then going to be reabsorbed, inducing metabolic alkalosis. Aldosterone. Let's talk about the spironolactone. This is one in which we call this as being a aldosterone receptor antagonist in this situation, in which if you block your effects of aldosterone, what are you going to do? You're not going to get rid of your potassium. You're going to spare it. You're not going to get rid of your hydrogen. You're going to keep it. It may result in decreased pH. What about ACE? ACE inhibitors inhibits angiotensin-converting enzyme. You never form angiotensin 2. Stop there. That angiotensin 2, which is a huge vasoconstrictor, which would, if present, and causes arterial vasoconstriction, would contribute to what? Afterload. If you give an ACE inhibitor, you remove angiotensin 2, listen, then you relieve the arterial vasoconstriction, resulting in decreased afterload. Point number 1. Point number 2, ACE inhibitor. When would you even think about giving ACE inhibitor? What about that patient in which you want to decrease mortality after having a congestive heart failure event? It's a good drug, isn't it? Because it decreases afterload by inhibiting angiotensin 2. How does it decrease preload more so? Well, what about aldosterone? If you can't form the angiotensin 2, how in the world are you going to produce your aldosterone from the glomerulosa of the adrenal cortex? You cannot, right? If you don't have aldosterone, tell me about preload. It is decreased. Important treatment for what? CHF. Because it decreases preload, it decreases afterload. It's great. Causes decrease in angiotensin 2, subsequently aldosterone. And we talked about angiotensin 2 and its effect on arterial vasoconstriction. Here you go. And you remove the angiotensin 2, you decrease the afterload. Aldosterone, if present, increases preload. If you inhibit it, what do? You inhibit the preload.